Hello, welcome in. Today I am here to talk about my anticipated releases for 2025, at least the ones that I have heard about so far. I know more come out towards the end of the year too. We know I'm not always the best at keeping up with new releases. Honestly, I'll probably read most of these in 2050 if I'm lucky, but I'm hoping that I can be better this year because there are a lot of really exciting books coming out. I have organized them by month, and like I said, there are a lot of them, so I'm just gonna get started. Okay, so for January, first of all, I have two books that I'm already currently reading. The first one is Lies on the Serpent's Tongue by Kate Pearsall. This is the sequel to Bittersweet in the Hollow, which I read last year and loved. It's set in Appalachia in a small town. It's got folk magic and fantasy mixed with being like a mystery thriller and also having cryptids. Then we have the next one, which I'm also already reading, called Wake Up and Open Your Eyes by Clay McLeod Chapman. This is described as a relentless and emotionally charged social horror novel about a family on the run from a demonic possession epidemic that spreads through the media and a news station called Fax News. Clay McLeod Chapman is also the author of Ghost Eaters, if you've read that. I did, and so far I have the same mixed feelings about both of them. I think that the premises are really interesting and powerful, but they kind of get lost in how weird and bizarre the horror is sometimes. For me personally, but I still think it's something to look out for if you like that kind of thing. The next book that I have for January is called Everything is Poison by Joy McCullough. She does really interesting kind of feminist historical fiction, and this book is about the women who made Aqua Tofana and ran the apothecary in Italy that would give poison to women who wanted to kill their evil husbands. Also in January, we are getting a new Grady Hendrix, which you know I'm so excited about. It's called Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. It's set in the 1970s at Wellwood Home, where unwed pregnant women are sent to be hidden away by their families and like give birth and do their pregnancies in secret. It seems like a really oppressive and controlling environment, but then the librarian gives one of the girls a book on witchcraft. And it says, power is in the hands of the girls for the first time in their lives, but power can destroy as easily as it creates, and it's never given freely. In January, we are also getting another Wayward children's book, Adrift in Currents Clean and Clear. If you haven't read this series, it is about children who find doors to other worlds. And this one is a turtle world. I'm so excited for Turtle World. The next one I have for January is a romance, and I don't often get super excited about romances, but this one sounds really nice. It's called Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young. This is about a married couple. They were high school sweethearts. They got married super young, but now 17 years into their marriage, they have hit a rough patch. So they decide to go on this like couples retreat, hiking trip, marriage therapy thing in the woods. And it says, what follows is a life-affirming comedy of errors as two nature-averse people fight their way out of the woods in order to find their way back to their roots. I think it sounds sweet, and I think that it's really nice to see a romance that comes after the falling in love story and kind of deals with people who are trying to maintain an already existing relationship. And then the last book that I have for January is called Black and Blues, How a Color Tells the Story of My People by Amani Perry. This author is a professor of African American Studies at Princeton, and the book is supposed to be a surprising and beautiful meditation on the color blue and its fascinating role in Black history and culture. But when I saw this, it really piqued my interest. And then moving on to February, I am so excited. We are getting a new Libba Bray. It's called Under the Same Stars, and it says, it was said that if you write to the bridegroom's oak, the love of your life will answer back. Now the tree is giving up its secrets at last. And it seems like this tree is kind of the through line between three different stories of people in 1940s Germany, 1980s Germany, and then also 2020 New York City during COVID. To be honest, if this was any other author, I think I wouldn't really be interested, but because it's Libba Bray, I have so much faith in the way Libba Bray writes about history, the way that she handled American history in The Diviners. A lot of faith and hope that this is going to be really good as well. Next in February is a debut novel which sounds so good. It's called Green Teeth by Molly O'Neill, and it is a cozy fantasy tale of fae, folklore, and found family narrated by a charismatic lake-dwelling monster. When a witch is thrown into the lake monster and her kind of join together on a magical quest to defeat the evil that threatens the monster's lake and the witch's family and the very soul of Britain. And it says it's perfect for fans of T. Kingfisher. Next, I have Listen to Your Sister by Nina Veal. This is a horror book, and it says, for fans of Jordan Peele's films, Stranger Things, and The Other Black Girl, Listen to Your Sister is a laugh-out-loud, deeply terrifying, and big-hearted speculative horror novel. 25-year-old Calla Williams is struggling since becoming a guardian to her younger brother, Jamie, and when Jamie's actions at a protest spiral out of control, The siblings must go on the run. Taking refuge in a remote cabin that looks like it belongs on a slasher movie poster, the siblings now face a new threat where their lives and reality hang in the balance. We also have a new Kate Alice Marshall coming in February called A Killing Cold. It says a woman invited to her wealthy fiance's family retreat realizes they're hiding a terrible secret and that she's been there before. I love Kate Alice Marshall's other books, but I've only read her YA so far, and this is an adult book. Okay, and then we have March, and March is out of control. First of all, we have Sunrise on the Reaping from Suzanne Collins, which is about Haymitch's time in the Hunger Games. I am cautiously optimistic about this. She's writing again, and honestly, I can see why. These are fraught times, and I can totally see why she would be like, okay, we need to revisit these themes, right? Like, so it makes sense to me, and I'm excited about it. Then we have a book called They Bloom at Night by Trang Ton Tran, who also wrote She is a Haunting, a haunted house story set in Vietnam, which I enjoyed last year. This one is about how a red algae bloom has taken over Mercy, Louisiana. Ever since a devastating hurricane, mutated wildlife lurks in the water that rises by the day. But Noon's life was upended long before the storm at a party her older boyfriend insisted on. So it sounds like a lot of trauma stuff and water horror and Vietnamese folklore, and it's queer. The next one that I have is kind of weird. But like, I'm excited. I want to check it out. It's called But Not Too Bold by Hache Puello, and it says it's The Shape of Water meets Mexican Gothic in this sapphic monster romance novella wrapped in Gothic fantasy trappings. The monster being romanced is a humanoid spider lady who apparently just keeps marrying a bunch of human brides and eating them. Like I said, it sounds pretty weird, but I want to check it out. Then we have an Ava Reid book coming out called Fable for the End of the World. This is a YA standalone lesbian dystopian romance, and it says by encouraging massive accumulations of debt from its underclass, a single corporation controls all aspects of society. And it sounds like the main character is offered as a sacrifice to clear her mother's debt by taking part in like a live streamed assassination spectacle. Honestly, this kind of doesn't sound like my thing, but I'm gonna give it a shot because it's Ava Reid and I liked Juniper and Thorn, and I think the vibes of her other books all sound really good, so I'm curious. Then we also have a book called Say a Little Prayer by Jenna Voris, and this is a YA coming of age sapphic romance set at a church camp at Bible camp. I loved it. This sounds really fun. Another YA coming out is A Catalog of Burnt Objects by Shauna Youngdahl, and this is about the wildfires in California, specifically the campfire that went through Paradise, California, which is the author's hometown, and fun fact, is also my hometown, where I was born and half raised, and most of my family still lives and is still kind of reeling from all of the things that we lost. The book just sounds really like it's a deeply personal kind of topic for me, and I have to check it out. In March, we're also getting a new Stephen Graham Jones, which I say as if I've read this author before. I haven't, but I really want to. This one is called The Buffalo Hunter Hunter, and it is a chilling historical horror novel set in the American West in 1912, following a Lutheran priest who transcribes the life of a vampire who haunts the fields of the Blackfeet Reservation, looking for justice. We've got one called Blood on Her Tongue by Joanna Van Veen, which is a gothic horror about vampires set in 1887 in the Netherlands. Lucy's twin sister is sick. The doctors have diagnosed her with temporary insanity due to brain fever, but Lucy knows that she's hiding something because Lucy is also hiding something. Then we also have The Unworthy by Augustina Bazterrica, who is the author of Tender is the Flesh. This one says a thrilling work of literary horror about a woman cloistered in a secretive, violent religious order. While outside, the world has fallen into chaos. A searing dystopian tale about climate crisis, ideological extremism, and the tidal pull of our most violent exploitative instincts. Another unforgettable novel from a master of feminist horror. I haven't read Tender is the Flesh yet, but I want to, and this also sounds really good. And then the other book that I wasn't sure about putting on here is called This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead. Basically, this sounds like it's about a girlie who's obsessed with true crime and is like trying to beat the police at solving the mystery of who recently recently killed 3 college girls. But the more she investigates, the more stuff starts to get kind of suspicious and also dangerous for her. 1 year after the astounding events that concluded the case and left the world reeling, she tells the true story of the Delphine massacre. I don't read a lot of mysteries and thrillers and stuff like that, so I don't know if this is like up my alley, but a lot of people are really excited about it and it does sound interesting, so I thought that I would put it on here anyway. And now finally, moving on to April, we have Saga Volume 12, first and foremost. If you haven't read Saga, it is a sci-fi graphic novel series about 2 soldiers from opposite sides of like an interplanetary alien war who fall in love and run away and have a baby together and now have to raise the baby while being on the run from both of their home planets. There's also a book called Dead Stream by Mar Ramasco, and this is about a girl who sees her favorite streamer get killed by a paranormal entity on stream, and now she can see that same entity in other people's streams, and she's got to find out what's going on. I don't know, this just sounds like a really fun, wacky, good time. Then I put on here When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. It says, one night, Jess, a struggling actress, finds a 5-year-old runaway hiding in the bushes outside her apartment. After a violent, bloody encounter with the boy's father, she and the boy find themselves running for their lives. It does say horrifying incidents of butchery, which I'm not sure if this is for me. This is the same author who wrote Mary, which I haven't read yet, but I want to, and I've heard really good things, but I don't know, like really violent, gory slasher kind of horror isn't really for me. We'll see, but I want to try it out. We'll see. Okay, then moving on to May. First of all, The Starving Saints by Caitlin Starling. Caitlin Starling writes great kind of gothic horror. One of the reviews for this book says, I think a sapphic medieval bacchanalian horror by Caitlin Starling might actually heal all my wounds. Me too. This is about a medieval castle which is under siege, everyone's starving, there's no food, and then a bunch of saints show up. Suddenly there's food everywhere, everyone's having feasts, and the castle is descending into bacchanalian madness and hedonistic ecstasy. Sounds amazing. Then I also have The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig, who wrote One Dark Window. I haven't read this yet, but I'm very intrigued. And this book is a gothic mist-cloaked tale of a prophetess who is forced beyond the safety of her cloister on an impossible quest to defeat the gods with a knight who is rude, heretical, and devilishly handsome. And as much as she'd rather avoid Roderick's dark eyes and sharp tongue, only a heretic can defeat a god. It sounds really fun. Next, I put on here Overgrowth by Mira Grant. I haven't read any Mira Grant yet, hoping to change that, but this book, it says Annihilation meets Day of the Triffids in this full-on body horror alien invasion apocalypse. Since she was 3 years old, Anastasia Miller has been telling anyone who would listen that she's an alien and that the armada that left her on Earth is coming to get her. Since she was 3 years old, no one has been willing to listen. What happens when you know what's coming and just refuse to listen? Then there's a book called Murderland by Carlin Greenwald. I think this is a YA. It's about a teen girl who works at an amusement park, but her first night on the job, her creepy coworker dies and someone is trying to pin his death on her. So her and her friends stay at the amusement park overnight and try to figure out what's going on. But as more people wind up dead, she thinks her friends might know more than they're letting on. I love a good carnival, amusement park, whatever setting. Like, just sign me up for it automatically. Then there's Manor of Dreams by Christina Lee. It says Mexican Gothic meets Everything I Never Told You in Christina Lee's haunting novel about the secrets that lie in wait in the crumbling mansion of a former Hollywood starlet and the intertwined fates of 2 Chinese American families fighting to inherit it. It's told in dual timelines spanning 3 generations. It says it's a thrilling family Gothic that examines the true cost of the American dream and what happens when the roots we set down in this country turn to rot. Then the last book I have for May is The Butcher's Daughter, the hitherto untold story of Mrs. Lovett by Corinne Lee Clark and David Demchuk. This is a Sweeney Todd retelling focusing on Mrs. Lovett's story, which, if you're unfamiliar, it's like the demon barber who would kill people at his barbershop, and then his partner in crime, Mrs. Lovett, owned a pie shop and she would bake them into pies. Very like Victorian London, Penny Dreadful type stuff. One of the reviews for this book said it was clearly meticulously researched. As a history graduate and absolute nerd, I loved the richness of the setting. I especially enjoyed the inclusion of the Foundling Hospital and the depictions of unromanticized aspects of the past. This book also doesn't shy away from presenting the reader with the injustice and danger faced by working class women during this time. This really gives Mrs. Lovett lots to be vengeful about. This review sealed the deal for me because I love a well done historical setting with lots of research and detail, and that really goes into what life was like for people during that time. And yeah, I'm really hopeful about this. For June, I only have one book. I think from here on out, we're in the part of the year that not a lot has been announced yet. So I'll probably make like an updated list later in the year. But for now, for June, I did put Kill Creatures by Rory Power. I still haven't read Rory Power, but I really want to. I've heard so many good things about Wilder Girls. So I put this on here. It's a YA thriller. It says, last summer, Nan's 3 best friends disappeared into Salt Cedar Canyon, but their vigil is interrupted by the shocking return of one of the missing girls alive. Everybody is overjoyed except Nan, who is pretty sure they were dead. After all, she's the one who killed them. Then for July, I have 3 books. The first one is The Bewitching by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I love Sylvia Moreno Garcia, not to be dramatic. And this book just sounds so good. It says 3 women in 3 different eras encounter danger and witchcraft in this eerie, multi-generational horror saga. In the 1990s, a character named Minerva is studying the history of horror literature, and she's focusing on an author who wrote during the Great Depression and attended the same university that Minerva is studying at now. And one of her books is about a supernatural experience that she had that Minerva thinks is connected to stories that her great grandmother used to tell about when she was growing up in like the early 1900s in Mexico. And Minerva thinks that this entity is back now to haunt her in the 90s. This just sounds amazing. Anyways, the next book that I have is called Predatory Natures by Amy Goldsmith, and it says a teen girl's dream job aboard a luxury train derails when she oh my god, the pun. I just realized the pun. Anyways, it derails when she discovers the strange cargo being transported. 2 mysterious greenhouse carriages filled with an array of beautiful and rare plants get attached to the back of the train in the middle of the night. This just sounds fun. I love a good greenhouse plant-based horror. I love a train that's giving Snowpiercer kind of. Anyways, the next book for July is called A Treachery of Swans by A.B. Poranek, which is a sapphic retelling of Swan Lake, and it says it's perfect for fans of V.E. Schwab and Alison Zoft. I'm personally a Swan Princess girly for life, so this sounds really fun to me. Basically, the synopsis is, raised by a sorcerer, Odile has spent years preparing for the heist of a lifetime. It's perfectly simple. Impersonate a princess, infiltrate the palace, and steal the king's enchanted crown and restore magic to the kingdom. But when the king is unexpectedly murdered, she's forced to recruit the help of the real princess, and the two begin to unravel a web of lies and deceit that leaves Odile uncertain of who to trust. Then I have 2 books for August. The first one is The Possession of Obadiahs by Isabel Cañas. This is set in the 1700s during a plague. When a demonic presence awakens deep in the Mexican silver mine, the young woman it seizes must turn to the one man she shouldn't trust, who is the cousin of the man she's betrothed to. Wonderful. I really loved The Vampires of El Norte. The mix of like historical fiction with supernatural kind of horror mixed with romance. Like, it was truly such a good time, and I'm hoping this will be similar. I also put on this list A Theory of Dreaming by Ava Reed. This is the sequel to A Study in Drowning. I haven't even read A Study in Drowning yet, but I want to, and I'm excited that the sequel is coming out. Basically, the series looks like it's like gothic dark academia fairy tale vibes. Finally, the last 2 books on this list are for September. The first one is another romance. It's called Zom Rom-Com by Olivia Dade. I don't know, it just sounds silly and fun. It says teaming up with your neighbor during a zombie outbreak is a no-brainer, but if it turns out he's a vampire, the stakes couldn't be higher in this infectious new paranormal romance. And then the last book I have on this list is Cleopatra by Sara El-Arifi, which is a historical fiction / retelling kind of about Cleopatra. I actually, when I was looking up this book, I know vaguely the general overview of Cleopatra's life, but I went and looked up like kind of a detailed biography, and oh my god, I couldn't believe what I was reading. And so that just made me even more interested and excited about this. But anyways, that is it. That is the end of my list so far of books I'm excited about in 2025. I hope that this list was helpful and that maybe you found a book or 2 that you're excited about. If you did, please let me know. I would love to know what books you're excited about. And if you found anything that I didn't put on my list, I would also love to know what you found. And yeah, thank you for watching. I hope it was helpful, and I hope that I get to talk to you soon.